I'm not quite sure I can hear you. All right. Now, anybody opposed to opening the meeting?
Sorry, I can't get my camera on again. I finally figured out I can do it with Zoom, but not with this.
All right. Well, we
I'm
can
working
hear
on
you.
it.
We can hear you. All right. So it looks like the motion to open the meeting carried, which is great because we have our special guest of honor, advisory member of the council, Kathy Stanley here, who is going to give us a report of her activities, including, I think, like the big picture with respect to, municipal buildings. And also I have a couple of specific questions. Other people might have some specific questions. So we're going to fully use Kathy's time with us if we can, to the extent we can. So Kathy, you had started to mention before a couple of people joined us about what's going on with Town Hall. If you could update us on that. And also, again, I think that the big picture, so we as the committee know of what you are working on, also your knowledge of what sort of the town's ongoing plan is with respect to both energy efficiency and decarbonization of its buildings.
Sure. So the current project that we're neck deep in is a Green Communities funded project where we're replacing the building control system at the town hall with a brand new direct digital control package that will allow us to save energy, reduce carbon, and improve comfort and to address operational issues. So,
sorry, Kathy, can you repeat that just so I can get some of that into the notes?
Sure. New direct digital controls for the town hall will save energy, reduce carbon footprint, improve comfort, and address operational issues that the facilities folks deal with. And we've had to break this project into phases to pay for it from Green Communities because it's much more than what one grant would be. So we are in our second phase and we'll be hopefully pursuing funding for our third phase in the spring of 24.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And as people may have heard before, that this is the reason why there was a lot of advocacy to retain Kathy as a consultant, because she can sort of put two and two together, which is obviously her knowledge of the energy field, but also, the sources of grant funding, how to get the grants, how to implement the grants, how to carry it forward to completion. And I think, report back to the granting agency so you're well placed to get the next grant.
Yeah. So the next thing I guess we should address is my email back to the committee after getting your notes of the meeting that you had with the town officers.
Right.
I was rather stunned, actually.
And I feel like I've apologized. I'm going to apologize again. I'm so glad that you can correct the record for all of us, because I think it's really critical for us to know the reality. Unfortunately, Paul was not there, so he was sort of the missing person. So please let us know, or describe if you can what really the overarching plan.
Well, and you will actually have the plan, so please feel free to read it thoroughly, because I included it on my email back. So you actually have my energy efficiency and decarbonization plan for the town in terms of what we are doing right now to that end. You did get it, right, Molly? I sent as an attachment.
I feel like I didn't see the attachment, but I can certainly go back and see. And how many pages is it?
4 or 5.
I feel like did anybody else see that? Because I think I forwarded Kathy's response.
I did.
So did you see it, Rachel?
I did.
That means it's attached and I missed it, and I apologize. So obviously,
No problem.
I need to star that. I need to go back and look at that.
I think you should give that a good read, because it really tells you what we need to do, what we're doing, what we need to do, the approach, the best practices approach to all of this work that we have before us in terms of decarbonization. There's, the first thing that you do with any decarbonization project is address your energy efficiency. All of your energy efficiency measures need to be addressed in terms of using the least amount of energy before you even think about trying to move into an electrification project. So that's important. And we continue to do that. That's an ongoing journey. I think with respect to the municipal buildings, we're in pretty good shape, actually. All of our lighting's been done. We have all LEDs. We have now, after we finish this controls project with the town hall, our major buildings will have good energy management systems and controls in place. Any electrification project that you do, you would have to include DDC controls. That in itself is a usually very expensive measure. So that's very important. We are going to look at, I think, the police station, just to make sure that that's addressed there as well. That is something that is on our active list. So,
Okay.
but all the other buildings that we manage as a town, if they're sizable, have a good control system, or if they're using a lot of energy. So that's the first thing that you need to do, is address the energy efficiency. After that, there is a number of ways to approach electrification. It's very important that everybody understands that these buildings are old. They were not designed to be heated with heat pumps. So when we retrofit that, when we go in and say we're going to change that, there is a whole bunch of things that have to be addressed. I have been working with 4 municipalities, including the MBTA, and been working very closely with DOER in their leading by example projects with their state agencies for the past 2 years on electrification of buildings. I feel that I am very far ahead of the curve. I have one of the first electrification grants was awarded to Westport, and I've been working on electrifying their town hall since we were awarded that grant in March. So in addition, I've done several feasibility studies with our engineering partners provided by the utilities, and I feel that I'm more than qualified to be able to structure our electrification plan for the town of Stoughton and for all of my municipal clients. And I can tell you there are some givens with respect to all of them. Number one, these are extremely expensive projects. I have a 7,000 square foot town hall that is going to cost $750,000 to convert from steam to electrification. We just finished doing a feasibility study for the Wilkins School, which is highlighted and outlined in my plan that I submitted. That project is estimating the electrification of that building using air-to-air heat pumps at about $2.8 million. That's just one building, and it's just the HVAC system. It includes weatherization of the building. No, it does not include weatherization of the building, which will be required, not insulation. This is a substantially involved weatherization project to address air leaks and that kind of thing. And I believe there's an estimated cost for the infrastructure, electric infrastructure upgrade, which would be required, because these buildings were built 40, 50, 60 years ago. They were not built with electric infrastructures in place to run heat pumps. They were built to run a fan and a pump, to run a boiler or whatever is needed. Far, far, far lower requirements than what's required in electric infrastructure. So every one of these projects requires an update to the electric infrastructure in the building. And all of them are substantial. They're expensive. So while you could potentially do a feasibility study for every building that you have, there's no way you would be able to execute on all of that at the same time.
Of course, right.
So you have to be a little bit careful about using your resources, because our biggest problem isn't our knowledge of how to move forward or a plan. Our biggest problem is money, budgets, and resources. Our staff is stretched right out. I mean, they're all doing 3 jobs. So asking them to take on more work with respect to projects like this, they can do some of it, but they can't do all of it at the same time.
And that's
So-
consistent with the implication that I'm drawing as well. The staff is overstretched.
Massively. But I swear some of the best people I work with are my Stoughton folks. They are willing to do whatever it takes. They give me whatever time I ask for, but we have to bite off what we can bite off and what we feel we want successful projects. We want this to be successful. So the first project we're looking at is the Wilkins School. The reason we're looking at that school is because it has a updated building envelope. So it has brand new windows, it has brand new roof, it has really good bones, really good infrastructure that's already been improved upon. It will be in the mix here for the next 25 years. We have done an electrification feasibility study that was paid for by the utility. That was completed about 3 weeks ago. The engineering firm that did it was B2Q. They are without a doubt the leaders in this. They've done well over 35 electrification studies, feasibility studies in Massachusetts for municipal and public customers in the past year alone.
Could you just repeat the name of the consultants who did the
B2Q.
B2Q? Okay.
B2Q. So I'm very confident in their work. We're looking at that study now. We've already had our initial meeting to review it, but we need to find some money because it's a very expensive project. So I think what we're going to do is apply for a Renews America Schools grant, which will be probably in the spring of 24. Those FOAs haven't come out yet. You have a question, Rachel?
Yeah, I was wondering, I talked to a couple other communities, and one thing they recommended was having a sustainability coordinator. Obviously, we don't want anything to jeopardize you, but like looking for a grant for a sustainability coordinator to work under you or with you, would that be something that you would want us to include in our climate plan, action plan?
I don't personally think giving me more resources is going to help us.
Okay.
I can develop as many projects as we can implement.
Right. This would be someone who would be implementing or assisting you.
Yeah,
That's not where the issue is.
That's not where the roadblock is. Yeah. So to give you an example, I put together 2 grant applications for Renews America Schools last year for their first round of funding.
Mhm.
There was one school district in Massachusetts that received funding from that grant, and it was Natick. After all the pontification about the importance of funding communities with environmental justice neighborhoods, that's where the money went. Okay, but we have serious, our whole town is an environmental justice neighborhood.
Right.
Now, we didn't put an application in, but we are going to. And we are going to see what we can do, but that's the kind of competition that there is for Renews America Schools funding. Green Communities funding is very limited. It's $200,000 a year, and that has to cover everything that we do, unless you're applying for an electrification grant, which is the one I got for Westport last year, which they give you $500,000. So we could potentially do that, but we have to finish the work that we've started and that we need to finish for the town hall and for some of our other buildings. So our plan is to get our Green Communities grant for this year, which is a slam dunk for the work we're doing, finish off our town hall DDC system. We have we're putting in a heat pump at the animal shelter. We have some other heat pumps on smaller buildings that we can do quickly.
Okay.
So, we continue but the bottom line is money. And it's not like if I had somebody helping me, if I get more money, there isn't more money.
Mhm.
The money that's available, we're applying for. So, as far as, so when I look at the climate leader community program that you sent to me,
Yes.
personally, I don't see any benefit to us for doing this, number one, and number two, because we're already doing everything that this is going to give us to do. And number two, there are some serious roadblocks with respect to this plan that you're going to run into at Stoughton. You're going to run into a problem with adopt a zero emission vehicle first policy right now, because we don't have any kind of charging infrastructure in place to do that.
Right. That one jumped out at me.
And you're going to run into a problem with adopt the specialized opt-in building code. Because there's going to be pushback on that.
I've already, yeah.
So, you know,
But I guess the thought was, and obviously I'm influenced by Nathan, was that it would be a door opening to additional monies to be in that category of a climate leader community.
yeah, so the money you're going to get is going to help you basically do the things that we're already doing. Creates
Right.
a new voluntary framework for meeting those goals by providing tools and resources to help us reduce emissions by electrifying non-electric energy uses and maximizing the efficiency of buildings. Are they going to give us money to actually do these projects, or are they going to just pay for feasibility studies and TA studies and things of that nature and teach you how to go get the money that we're already getting? Because we have very good relationships with our utilities.
And you're
And we're-
getting grants from the utilities as well?
You know, we don't get grants, we get free money. We get them to pay for our studies and our engineering studies, and we've gotten a lot of money in incentives for the new fire station because of the heat pump technology that's going in there.
You keep jumping to my next question, which is beautiful, which is what is going on with the fire station? And so you're telling me, but what is the design plan for that as far as the energy use?
So there is a heat pump with a backup fossil fuel natural gas system for the coldest days. They're going to use the heat pumps on it many of the days as they can. With the condensing boilers, which are extremely efficient, are going to be put in for those coldest days. And I mean, I just went to a technical session with Mitsubishi 2 weeks ago, where while they're telling you their heat pump can absolutely handle these loads at these cold temperatures, on the next breath, they're saying, but if you can put in a backup fossil fuel system to carry that load those 9 or 10 days a year, when you're going to be better off. Because our situation is that we don't have a whole inventory of buildings in New England that are running on these heat pumps when it's zero. We don't have that history.
Right.
So, I mean, do you want, so from my way of thinking, I think that their plan is good. They don't have to run these fossil fuel boilers. They can run the heat pumps all year. But at least they're there in case this is a fire station. It's a public
Right,
safety.
it's pretty important. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's more
Yeah.
important than an individual household. Because
I mean, we're designing some net zero schools in Walpole right now that I'm involved with, and we're doing some electrification of school buildings in Walpole right now that I'm involved with. And, those situations are schools. So, there's some realities around electrifying a school or building a new net zero school. Number one, you cannot put in an emergency generator big enough to run that building. It would take a small nuclear plant or something. It's huge. You would need to, it's not feasible. So that means you need to be able to empty that school in 2 hours. If you lose power, game's up. Get the kids out, put them on a bus, go. So those are the realities that you need to deal with when you're talking about heat pumps and schools and buildings and public buildings. So as far as the fire station goes, I think we're going to see a really nice EUI. I think our benchmark is going to be every bit as good. I mean, if you think about it, a net zero school EUI is going to be 25, 24 maybe. I'll bet we'll be at 30 with our fire station. And I'll bet we'll be running our boilers, 12 days a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're not at net zero, but you're very close.
Right. In a very important public building.
In a very important public building.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. If there's yes. Okay.
And the reason we received so much incentive money, and I don't know exactly how much off the top of my head, I have to go back and look at all the records, but was because our utility partners are working right with us. They're all of, we have new construction, account executives and program managers who are working side by side with us to maximize the amount of incentive money that we're going to get for those heat pumps. We're already doing what this program says they can let us do. We've done that for a year. We're neck deep in it. So
All right.
I don't know. That's my feeling. I don't want to stop and apply for something so I can go backwards.
Mhm.
No, I agree. And actually, I if you don't mind me just pulling out that climate leaders program, one of
Yeah.
questions I had about that. Which, by the way, I don't know. Oh, yes, there was some other email that came. I don't know. I can't even come up with the emails from. Maybe it was Pam. And it had some green communities summary. And it was a beautiful table there, a summary of all the money that's come into Stoughton, and the specifics of what it was applied to, which I think is fabulous to see that on that chart. But one of the things that I was not too clear about as far as the climate leader communities, et cetera, was one of their criteria was looking here. All right, so that one we met. The roadmap. Oh, the adopt. I swear, no, I'm not finding it. I thought there was something about openness to having like an energy.
Have a local body, sustainability
Well, no, it was
committee,
like
energy committee.
Creating an energy source there. Well, I didn't know if they were talking about creating a wind farm or creating a solar panel farm. And I can't find it now, of course, that I want to see.
So I'm
that.
looking at to be eligible for climate leader community certification. Communities must meet the following requirements: be a green community in good standing, have a local body, sustainability committee, energy committee, etc., that advises the municipality on clean energy climate initiatives, commit to eliminate on-site fossil fuel use by 2050, create a municipal decarbonization roadmap, adopt a zero-emission vehicle first policy, and adopt the specialized opt-in building code. That's what you have to do.
Right, I have them here, and now I've lost what the one, again, I'm looking at the more detailed one, which goes on for 7 pages.
Oh.
And I thought there was something about, and maybe, I don't know if it's about having, the openness in your zoning or something to, for energy, production facilities.
So
which
if you're talking about as of right siting, we already have
that's
that.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
yes.
we already have as of right siting for solar PV. So that's part of being a green community. You have to have it.
I'm just gonna write that down. You go so quickly and cover so much substance. That's terrific. Okay, so that's great. That seemed to be a little foreign to you, but you're saying we've already met that.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think, the reason that caught my eye and seemed of interest was the idea of getting more money to flow to us by some things, which of course look like they're difficult, and some things look like, we do meet it or we could meet it. But it seems like, and please, everybody on the committee, feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. It feels like what you're saying is like we could go through sort of the formula, but at the end of the day, you don't actually think we'll get more money.
No, I don't.
Okay.
James, you have a question?
Yes. Hello, Kath. Hello,
Hi.
Kath.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Kathleen, I was thinking, I was unsuccessful when I called Eversource a few weeks ago, and then they told me that Stoughton would be ineligible for any type of assistance with respect to citing any type of super charging stations or standards charging stations in the community. And then they referred me to National Grid, who I reached out to, and I'm making connections with them, but I would only want to coordinate this through somebody with experience along those lines in order to establish the right line of communication to cite the electrovolt stations. If anything, another question, something I had, just to tap, see if you had any ideas. This transportation bill that was passed recently, is there any monies available with regard to that huge amount of money that was given to communities or available for communities for developing charging stations in communities, or is that a far reach?
Let me back up. You asked National Grid for help in developing EV stations. Is that what you were sort of wondering?
I asked Eversource, and they told us that we were ineligible because we are not a community that.
Eversource is our gas supplier.
It's our gas supplier?
Yeah.
Okay, because that would.
They have nothing to do with our electric system. The
Yeah.
National Grid is our electric supplier. Actually, the other day I met with Paul and one of our consulting engineers that we work with, and we're going to be revisiting putting two new EV charging stations a dual charger at the rec center and a dual charger at the town hall employee parking lot, that both will be available for the public. So we're actively looking at that right now. There is grant money for that. We do have to work with National Grid for it. There is money from National Grid to do it. National Grid has a program that they pay for all of the infrastructure, the actual electric service itself, to be able to put in an EV charging station. These are level 2 chargers. They are not level 3 chargers. Level 2 chargers are affordable. Level 3 chargers are very expensive. So, but we'll be working our way towards that. And we have a plan, and Paul and I are working on it. We have a spot, and we have an engineer who's actually putting that proposal together right now.
Great.
I think all of this is in the plan I sent you guys.
Yeah, and that's obviously of huge interest to everybody on the committee, is to, turn the corner and start getting charging stations. And so I'm going to ask the obvious question is, and I know you had already told us there was a reason why a previous plan to get the first 2 in, and it was because National Grid didn't get the infrastructure in there. So, 2, what about like 10? So we can't get 10, we can't get 2 at the library, and 2 at town hall, and 2 here and 2 there.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. We don't have any. So let's get 2 in.
Okay.
Because somebody has to pay the cost of warranting and the software costs. You don't get these for free. You get help, and then you get to pay for the warranty and upgrade and the software costs and manage the stations. There's a cost to that.
Yep.
And the cost that I got the first time through, for another town 2 weeks ago, I wasn't happy with, so I'm negotiating with ChargePoint, and I'm also asking for some kind of competitive pricing. These things take time. You have to work through the project, and you have to get a proposal, and then you have to apply for the EVIP grant, and you have to wait for the approvals, and it takes a year.
Right.
That's what it takes. I mean,
Right.
and that's all grant money that's provided from the state of Massachusetts. EVIP is Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, I think, or something like that. But we're working on that, and we'll see them happen. I'm quite sure of it. Because Paul said to me, I don't even care if it's Green Communities money, just do it.
Right.
We'll pay for it. I'll find the money.
That's beautiful. That's exciting.
I can't ask for more than that,
You can't ask for more than that. And I think, quite frankly, something that's, it's time actually for the town too, from time to time, to realize that it should support some of the costs itself. When you exhaust your grant funding, you have your incentives, whatever you do, and everybody's on the search and pulling in as much as that is possible for utilities. But everyone's, but the town's gonna just have to take a look at the big picture and say, we're gonna have to, because of the emergency nature of this and moving as quickly as possible, we're gonna have to pay for some things. And I think town meeting hopefully would be open to that. Michael, thoughts about that?
I want to just go back to James real quick, because he asked a question about the transportation money. And yeah, I think it is going to trickle down. I don't think I haven't seen any FOAs on it yet. FOA is funding opportunity announcement from the feds. But I did just recently attend Alt Wheels, which is an annual event held in Norwood every year. And it's alternative vehicle kind of trade show, workshop kind of thing. There's a lot of very exciting stuff going on.
Okay.
One of the things that they're doing is utilities will be making technical advisory studies available for fleet conversion projects. That's brand new. I don't even think we know exactly who to work with from the utility, but that's another one of our plans to work with the utility towards some of these municipal vehicle fleet conversion plans. It's complicated, expensive, and time consuming, like everything.
Right.
Complicated, expensive, and time consuming, but we got to start somewhere. Stoughton owns their own garbage trucks. They're all diesel.
Oh, yes. Well, that came up at town meeting. They wanted to replace, 2 things came up with that. They wanted to replace for $300,000 something, one of their old trucks, which did have quite a lot of mileage, for reasons I don't really know. The town, and I actually didn't stand up and insert myself because I wouldn't know what I was talking about, quite frankly. So the town voted it down. And I think somebody suggested to me that, you know, they don't like these special town meeting add-ons, that you should have had it in the spring town meeting. And at the same time, and I probably mentioned this to you like a few months ago, I saw something, whether it was from the federal or the state, about grants, about, it seemed to be this very thing, like heavy duty trucks for towns, and was informed that nobody has enough time to apply for that grant. So I don't know, maybe there's time now since this was shut down.
So
for-
it's not, the grant isn't the problem. The problem is the technology. Being able to take a garbage truck and convert it to an EV. You don't go out and buy an EV garbage truck. You pay a manufacturer to custom convert that truck. That they don't have trucks that you can go buy that are already EVs.
Okay.
Now, does that mean we're not going to explore it? No, we are absolutely going to explore it, because at some point they are going to have an EV garbage truck. And the reason is because there's a whole bunch of equipment on that garbage truck that's all driven by hydraulics. And those hydraulics are all powered by diesel. And it would be way more, if you ask a mechanical engineer that question, all of that could be done better with electricity. But that solution, these are cutting edge. These solutions don't exist right now. They're ideas. There are manufacturers that are starting to work on it. They're
Right.
starting to develop this technology. Paul and I are very interested in this. That's like that's a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
But you have to start. You have to start. And we're going to start by getting the utility. Mike Skinner doesn't know this yet. He's our National Grid rep, but he's going to get me a TA study to start looking at my garbage fleet. Rachel, do you have a question?
No,
Yeah.
so not so much a question, but we can definitely include electrifying trash vehicles, garbage trucks then in our climate action plan, even if
Yeah,
that's already happening. But
it's in my plan. If you read my plan, you'll see
we're
it in
gonna
there.
use your plan a lot.
It's in my plan. Jim? James?
Well, Kathleen, I just had to ask, I see propane fueled trucks on the highways and roadways. Is that an alternative that's feasible in our community?
So, I mean, I've been involved with the T since 2003, and I can tell you that we've gone through a whole giant life cycle of CNG, compressed natural gas for vehicles, and they've just moved away from that over the past 5 or 6 years and are really going strictly electric vehicle now for their fleet. There's all kinds of crazy technologies that people are throwing out there: hydrogen, propane, fuel cells. I don't know. To me, yeah, I mean, those are experimental technologies. You don't go buy that. That's something that you have to hire somebody to design for you. So I'm going to be looking at much more practical applications of things that, and I need to work with Paul to help understand better, like our fleet. What are our needs of our fleet? How much does it cost? Where are our routes? How long do they drive? And there's a lot of work here to collect information. And that's why I say to you, our biggest problem is money and resources and time. Because really what we're doing here is running a town. All the people I work with, Paul and his team and his staff, Joyce at the schools, they're all running buildings and towns and schools. And when they can get some extra time, they put it into all of this kind of work. And I help them. So,
But that raises the question, which I think Rachel brought up before, of a sustainability, of people not being stretched too thin and running, the day-to-day operational things are taking so much time. You're a consultant for many towns. You've obviously invested a huge amount and done a huge amount for us. And I think we're thrilled. But the question of somebody else, whether it's a sustainability coordinator or somebody else who can look at, really focus and hone in on those issues and help move the ball forward on those issues across all the town departments.
all I can tell you is you need another Paul Jafone.
Okay. So more like somebody with, well, I don't know if he has an engineering background or he's just operations, or
who
Okay,
runs the Department of Public Works.
yeah, I
You
know.
know,
who it is. Yeah.
that's the problem. Those are the resources. James, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen, is there any thought or any planning involved with an electrovolt fueling station at DPW in a sense to give Paul that opportunity to expand his fleet someday?
Yeah, at some point. I mean, we have to decide what part of our vehicle fleet we can actually electrify. There's a lot of heavy equipment there that are not candidates. So not right now, because that equipment doesn't exist. So we have to, that's why I want to get the utilities involved, and what they will do is hire a consultant that actually knows a great deal about vehicles and have them work with us to develop a plan. So that's my plan. to
I
deal with
want,
that.
thank you, Kathleen, but we had a question from a resident last week that was critical of the electrical infrastructure and saying that this board, it took the board to task in a sense, saying that the current electrical infrastructure is so substandard that it isn't really ready for us to take this massive step forward to electrify everything as an
Are they
alternative.
talking about the grid?
I
Pardon?
think they were taught, the question was about the entire grid across the United States.
And they want us to do what?
No, they don't want us to do anything. That was.
Oh, that's good.
That's
That was the commentary that we shouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah, they were saying the grid can't take it, but the grid's in a constant state of flux, and they're constantly upgrading and repairing the grid. So, can you give us any insight on that?
No, not really. I know they continue to look at renewable energy, solar and wind, but a lot of our wind projects are falling by the wayside because they weren't priced properly. There's a very big movement right now to reintroduce nuclear energy because it's carbon free. And we quite frankly have all the technology in the world for that right now. I mean, all of the clean energy in this country has been humming along for 50 years on plants that never break. The new nuclear technology, the small modular reactors and the new salt reactors, many of them they don't have waste. They don't make waste, or they use recycled waste as fuel. So, but those are difficult discussions to have with New Englanders. We don't, we're not Utah or Idaho where there are big deserts and people don't care if you want to put a nuclear reactor in a desert because it's a desert. Where are you going to put it? There's all kinds of things that need to be worked out. I know that I think Massachusetts might be looking at all of the different clean energy technologies, because do we have an answer for our grid? No, we don't. I mean, 60% of our electricity comes from natural gas right now, but 25% of it comes from nuclear. So, maybe that can be flipped. Fortunately, most of our coal plants are done, but not all of them. We still have coal plants in New England. So, if you want to know more about our energy mix, you can go to iso-ne.org. That's the ISO New England website. It will tell you everything you want to know about the grid. Those are the people that actually drive it, and they'll give you a whole fuel mix. I can tell you right now. There we go.
Well, thank you for your insight with respect to the breakthroughs on managing nuclear waste. That was one of the worst problems of the industry. My father was involved in the industry actually for Westinghouse, but I'm not on top of the current technology.
So right now, our resource mix today, we are making 19,516 megawatts of electricity. We are 59% natural gas, 15% net imports, 14% nuclear, 8% hydro, and out of all of it, only 4% is coming from renewables. That 4% is broken into refuse, wood, wind, landfill gas, and less than 1% comes from solar of the 4% of the entire mix. We still have a little coal and a little other, and I don't know what other is, but
Across the United States, or is that Massachusetts?
no, that is the New England.
New England, okay. All right. That's very informative. Obviously shows us we have a huge way to go. I'm going to actually circle around and let people ask questions. And then actually, I want to maybe, before we let you go, ask about solar panels. But maybe if we sort of go in a clockwise order. Janet, do you have any questions for Kathy, who it's always enlightening to talk to you, because you sort of like pull the curtains back on what the reality is out there.
Yeah.
And sort of give us a different view of things. Janet, do you have any questions for Kathy?
I have a couple questions. I was just letting her talk. She was fascinating to hear what you had to say. I really learned a lot.
Yes.
Kind of when you said 4% renewable, is that really made me very concerned. But I don't know if it's basically because you've been talking about cost being the most important thing here. So I don't know if it's because of cost, if it's maybe people being unaware, or just trying, or technology, learning more about things. But that was the last thing. But the first thing I think was when we were talking about what you were working on in the town, how you decide what was important, because you picked that one school. I mean, you didn't pick it, but obviously it was mentioned,
No, I
as well as some small projects. I know you didn't.
I actually did.
Probably
pick
had
it.
something to do with it, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, I actually chose that.
You did.
school.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
The
sorry.
reason is because the school has a STEAM system.
Right. I'm just wondering how they decide, because that's where you're starting here. Where would you go next? Would you continue with the schools? Because I know you have the town hall as being probably the main thing, because that is the most important, that runs the town.
The schools
Right.
use way more energy than anything else in the town.
Oh, they do? Really?
Oh, yeah. Way more.
Okay. So is that because of the way they're built, and they're
They're bigger.
oh, they're bigger? Okay. I'm just wondering how you decide where you go next, I guess. If it's
So, with
you've been
respect-
talking a lot about funding, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the only reason, or if that's
First
just the
thing-
main reason.
Yeah. So with Spectre Wilkins, we know it's going to be in the mix. It's got an improved building envelope that's had a lot of money put into it. So it's tight, and we can probably tighten it up even more. But it's got a steam heating system that's reaching the end of its useful life, and that's leaking. So it has to be replaced. So what do? Either you replace in kind. Nobody wants to do that, right? Because that's fossil fuels.
Right.
And it's steam. It's not even efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I could replace it with a hydronic hot water system and put in condensing boilers that are 97% efficient, and then surround the thing with heat pumps, I
Right.
guess that might be my first go, but that's not easy with a steam system. You have to actually go behind architectural surfaces to do that. There's a lot of problems with that. So
Right.
that's why I said, well, call Joe in and let's take a look and see if we can do either air to air or geothermal. So geothermal, $8.9 million, and that doesn't include any of the electric infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas air to air, 2.8.
Right. So
That's
I'm
a
just-
pretty easy decision.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, no, I just think because that's one
Yeah.
school. And what do we have? I'm not sure how many schools there are now. Is it five? I know the number has changed over
So,
the years. So
The high
maybe-
school is actually in pretty good shape, right? It's brand new,
Oh,
it's
okay.
very efficient. The AUI is running around 40. The school's doing great.
Right.
Leave that alone. The middle school needs a lot of work. But it's a huge number.
Oh, okay.
It's a huge school. It's used every day till 11 o'clock. It's filled with children that are probably better off there than going home.
So a lot of it's requirements. What's required to,
Yeah.
in other words, if you're saying because of the length of the day.
Yeah.
And-
So, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I continue to think long and hard about the middle school because it's a real problem. And we're not going to probably get another one right away. I mean, even if they were to approve a new school today, you wouldn't see it for 10 years. I mean,
Right.
so I don't know. I'm still thinking about the middle school. The Jones School is probably going to end up getting closed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. The South School is being replaced.
Right.
just-
Right. I saw that. Yeah.
I'm going to start getting involved with that new construction project. I was on the phone with Joyce today to start setting up that so that I can make sure that we are involved in getting enough incentive money and using enough heat pump technology and whatever we can do to increase our energy efficiency and reduce our carbon footprint there.
Right.
I'm Hanson, Gibbons, and Daw have we can't replace them. They're all hydronic, so they're hot water systems. They have brand new condensing boilers that aren't more than a few years old that are extremely efficient in the 90s, but
Okay.
none of them have controls. So, and all of the schools have old pneumatics, which were original to the building and don't work.
Right.
So actually, my next plan after Wilkins will be to try and come up with a plan to rip and replace every one of those control systems.
Really? Wow.
I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I know if I can do it, that it will improve a whole lot of things.
Right.
It'll reduce energy. It'll improve comfort. It'll give everybody a lot more information about how the building's running. It will improve indoor air quality. It'll allow us to ensure our air exchanges are good. If we have another pandemic, we can have much more control over our destiny. And no matter what we do with respect to heat pump technology, we will need a new control system to make that work.
Yeah.
Right.
At the same time, I'm spending money, the green communities money that I get, to weatherize. So I'm preparing our schools for electrification. I've done a bunch of audits on insulation and weatherization of the Wilkins, and I'm gonna try and use some of our green communities money to start going down the path of making sure. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you can get a grant to do the electrification, the weatherization is already done. And all that's going to do is make the school building more comfortable,
Right.
and easier to heat and more energy efficient. So, but it's a it's planning. You have to plan for that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, Jennifer.
Yeah, I
That's
was
sort
just
of what
trying
I'm
to think of
thinking.
priorities, like,
Right.
and also, I know we're trying to be more green. I mean, does any of this also in the long term save money for the town? I mean, I'm trying
All
to
of
think
it does.
what's the incentive? Because I don't know how we fit in as far as budget, where we are in the budget, like what percentage people, I mean, how important we are. That concerns me too, because I know we want the town to run efficiently financially, but I want it to be green. But I'm saying, I don't know where we fit in as far as importance to.
I would say we're very important because we
Okay,
save
well, that's
money.
good to know. That's
We
good to
save-
know.
We save operating costs.
Because I know
save money.
they think of other things too when they think
Yeah.
of finances. That was my concern. Okay.
Yeah, no, I would say
Yeah.
it's, I have never gone to either Paul or Joyce and said, I really need you to do this, and
Yeah.
had them say no.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good
They
to
can-
hear.
And I'm even Paul, like
Yeah.
I need you to give me 30 grand.
Right.
Okay.
That's
good
great.
to know.
I'm
Thank
a
you.
little careful
I
about
want
what
to
I
hear
ask.
I want to hear some positive stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think this is a good, community. This is a good cause for the town. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
James, are you all set, or do you have another question before I just keep circling around?
I'm all set. Thank you very much, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So Michael has been busily trying to write all this down. It's just been such a tsunami of really critical information, and I'm sure we're all going to be watching the tape.
Thank you, Kevin.
Michael, anything you want to ask Kathy to?
Just, you said the Wilkins is currently running, it's gonna cost 2.8 million.
That's an estimate,
Are
and
you going ahead with that?
we don't have the money yet. I gotta
Okay, that was
find-
my question. So you don't have the money for that, and it sounds like, going through your list, none of the other schools are on your list at this point either, right?
Well, they're all on my list, but we're going to do different
They're
things.
not on the
with them.
horizon.
Yeah, no, not without money. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Ultimately,
I think
okay.
it's important that everybody realizes that every single town in Massachusetts is in the exact same situation.
Sure.
I mean, you do have communities that have a lot more money than Stoughton. A lot more. And they can do things that you can't do because you have very serious economic realities here. We have families that are struggling to, eat. And that's our reality. So we have to, now, federal government seems to think that's a really important criteria to get money. We'll see, because I will be playing that card,
Please do. Please do.
But, we're not Acton or Wellesley or Weston.
Right. We don't have $2 million houses, and we don't have
Oh,
the
two. Oh, no, 40. $40 million houses. Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's
Wow.
insane. Some of the, it's what to say, like Brookline does this all the time. They're famous for, passing laws that say, well, we're not going to build any more houses with fossil fuels. That's what that stretch code, opt-in stretch code says.
Yeah.
No more new construction with fossil fuels. Wow. Really? So if you're fortunate enough to be able to even afford to build a house here, it's going to be that much more expensive because we're not going to let you use natural gas. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you would, that's a huge roadblock. And it's not just a roadblock here. It's a roadblock in lots and lots and lots of towns where that's a very serious limitation for your community, for your constituents, for the people who have to actually live this for day to day, So something to think about.
Yep.
I mean, I was reading through that, the whole thing, and I was like, wow, guys, thinking DOER. I mean, I have a lot of friends that work for DOER. They're going to be hearing from me. So, like, we need to be successful. Is that really the way to make, is that opt-in stretch code going to make this successful? Because it seems to me like you're going to get those 5 communities that can do it anyway are going to jump in, and the people like Brockton, who really does need that help, they're not going to get it.
It's a mess.
In other words, the barriers and the standards are so high, it's going to favor certain communities with more money.
It absolutely favors communities with more money. And I don't know if you can tell, but kind of pissing me off, like,
Yeah.
because I work for communities that like Westport, where a lot of those folks are land rich, but they're very cash poor.
Well, there is a sense, and I'm going to go back to Michael, and then obviously Rachel's going to speak too, but there just is a sense when you read some of those climate action plans, which I've probably read 6, and some of them are short and some of them are very voluminous, that it's like, here's our goal. We're going to do this. We're going to do this with this. We're going to get there. And I feel like there's not a lot of information filled in as to the economics of how you do it.
No, because nobody knows what it costs to electrify a school.
Okay.
They've only done 35 feasibility studies this year. How many buildings do we have in the state? Think about that, right?
Right.
I'm on a project with the T right now for the Everett heating plant. It's going to be $25 million to electrify that building. Like, can we do it? I mean, just, I just look at, the T problems and I'm like, oh my God.
The T's got a lot of problems. Wow.
Yeah. And that's a huge problem because that's our mass transit. That's what's going to replace our vehicle. That's what's going to get us where we need to go without having to drive a car. But it takes 80 minutes to get to Alewife on the red line. Like, what are you kidding? Like, how are we going to do this?
Right,
Oh.
right. You can't get people out of the cars if the T is not reliable and reasonably speedy. So
Right.
that's it's sort of like, where do you put your money? Michael, anything else?
No, I think you just answered a couple other questions in the interim there too. Thank you.
All right, Rachel, thoughts, questions?
Gonna have to rewatch this, but that was very, very thorough. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kevin, for recording this.
Yes, absolutely. And quite frankly, probably need to have you show up more often, put you on the agenda more often, if that's okay.
Well,
We sort of
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. It's been a little longer than I expected to be with you tonight, but if I'm in a little more frequently, we can probably keep it down to 15 or 20, right? Just to give you an update.
absolutely,
going on.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
great.
good.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and
My
for
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yeah, read through the plan I sent, and if you have
Absolutely.
questions, shoot me an email.
Yep, will do. Will
Okay.
do. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, then. I think that sort of takes us to our next section topic, which was the Climate Leaders Communities Certification, which Kathy obviously had some feelings about that. I think we need to I think I sent everybody the link, which was about a 6 or 7 page description. And again, some of it seemed like we're there, we're almost going to be there. Some of it seemed like, you know, there's certainly would be a lot of work before we would get there. But then, yeah, you have Kathy basically saying it's not worth the, it's not worth it, or wouldn't be productive. So I think what Kathy raised, which we need to continue exploring, is where is the money best spent? So in other words, whether it's a sustainability coordinator or, you know, an outside consultant who does X, Y, and Z, or somebody who works with Paul Jaffoon, whose focus is on, you know, electrification and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think like we're going to need to keep circling back to that, and circling back to Kathy as we become more educated in this process, because the last thing I want to do is to advocate successfully or unsuccessfully for something that isn't the best spending of the money. And she's right. It's like, you know, many of these things are many hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to move off fossil fuels. And again, we certainly want to have a plan, but we want to have a plan that makes sense, and that is either asking for or actually getting the money in a way that it's spent most wisely. Clearly, it sounds like Kathy's making, you know, knows, like is honing right in on what needs to be done, and she knows the priority and order of things, and it all makes sense once you talk to her. But we can take a look at that again, and then, you know, maybe put on the agenda again to further explore it. So if it's okay to move on to the next topic, which is number 4, which is the meeting with the town department heads. And I did describe that. And I guess my last question for Kathy was, I didn't understand why I got the response to my question. I know Paul Jaffoon about, you know, what is the plan for, you know, electrifying the buildings and everything, and was told there was no plan. I'm surprised that Mark Tisdale didn't know differently to chime in and say, to comment on that. I mean, the answer was basically like, no, we don't have a plan. I mean, James, you were there. That's pretty much my takeaway was, you know, we're looking for the, you know, multiple municipal buildings, obviously school buildings as well, you know, trying to become more energy efficient and reduce carbon greenhouse gas emissions. And the answer I got was there's no plan. I don't know if I misheard James or.
Well, I think tonight we learned otherwise. And I think the most important thing is to maintain communication with the officials at Town Hall and Kathy as well, and stay on the pulse of this. And that way we're on top of this, and it'll give us a better feeling, a better vote of confidence as to what is being achieved. That's along the mission of this committee. I felt very satisfied in hearing what the irons were that were in the fire with respect to what Kathy's attempting to do and what she's achieved. I think we just need to be on the pulse of this and just keep asking these questions, and maybe we can prioritize some of these items if we ask the right questions and show that we're concerned. Like, for instance, we're concerned about the electrovolt stations, and they get the feedback from our community on something such as that. Maybe they will move on it. I think that we can change the momentum of certain things as a policy making board while we come up with our climate resiliency plan. So that's why I think it's very important just to maintain communication with town officials like we already started to do, and then to get the update from Kathy. I don't even think it would be, I think it'd be something the board should consider, to ask the town manager if he's willing to ask the boards and committees of town to delegate a person to participate on these boards or attend a meeting of ours. To have a delegate to our committee from these boards that might be helpful to us and will broaden our scope of advancement and influence.
I agree. And again, that's why I think many weeks ago, I came up with a list of all the town commissions and committees and boards and things like the planning board and redevelopment authority. And, I think we do have to make the link with them and figure out what's the most efficient way. I mean, they're not going to, attend every meeting of ours, obviously, but if we could get somebody, whether they're appointed by the town manager or we just go to the chair and say, you know, would you or somebody from your committee like to attend our meeting? Here's the things we're looking at. Here's what we're interested in. You know, how does that overlap with or intersect with what you're working on or what's within your jurisdiction? So yeah, I think that's something definitely to try to move forward on and continue to have meetings with town officials as much as we can.
Could I say one more thing, Molly?
Yes.
What I'm thinking is not to have somebody from every one of these boards on all the boards and committees in town. I'm thinking we should ask for a delegate front, which we already have one from the Conservation Commission too. Maybe someone from the Board of Health would be interested in attending our meetings, someone from the Planning Board. I mean, those are the main boards responsible for the most work and development and review of projects. And should I say, even the Board of Health is crucially important too, because they are a board that has the power to create regulations, you know, on their own that could be helpful to us. And we should tap onto that. We should tap into that. And we should welcome them and let them know what they're doing, because they do share a lot of our beliefs. And we have a lot more in common with these boards, you know, that these boards that I just mentioned, I think should have delegates in our community, the most important ones.
Right. No, I would agree with that. And would you agree the redevelopment authority, that's different from the planning board, right? Or not?
I wouldn't say that just yet. No, I wouldn't say that just yet. I wouldn't invite them yet, because they are restricted to the industrial park in North Stoughton. They don't have broad authority over the town. They're just restricted to the industrial park, the redevelopment authority. They're not a quasi-judicial board that I can say by charter, for the most part, to the best of my professional judgment, in my experience at town hall.
Right. At the same time, I mean, I know.
Opinion.
At the same time, again, not really knowing what they do, but you know, those questions and how businesses and industries are operating obviously can have a huge climate impact as well. So in any event, but that your point is well taken, certainly. This actually just, if I can just continue with the discussion as it turned out with the town officials that I had on November 2nd. I certainly got the takeaway, and I think it's consistent with what James said a couple of months ago about these town officials kind of really push the discussion to, or to like really us going out and hiring a consultant to help with the climate action plan. I mean, honestly, they did. And obviously, you know, that was James' position a couple of months ago. I said I wanted to see if we could exhaust grant funding. And that is really a complex question now, because even though we feel like we're likely to get some support from MAPC, like a technical assistance grant, they themselves are saying you also need to, or you should need to go get an EEA grant. Although I have one sustainability coordinator in Acton I talked to said you don't need that. Although they had a hugely complex climate action plan on their own. But the thought was, when we talked to the town officials, of trying to get some quotes and then perhaps put together a town article for town meeting. And I know the deadline is in December. I'm still trying to get the date for the deadline for the spring town meeting. Even if we put it in as a placeholder, and if for some some reason it turns out in the spring we do get an EEA grant or something else that satisfies the need, because that really is going to impact the type and sophistication, and I would say the impact, quite frankly, of our climate action plan. How much technical assistance we have from a consultant that's either hired through a grant or the town pays for it. Something that hopefully, if the town pays for it, you know, like everything else we've done or along these lines, such as, you know, hiring Kathy Stanley, hopefully it's like a good investment for the town. That's what I was hearing at that meeting, James. There was a lot of encouragement to try to go get a consultant, right?
Yes, there was support of that. And I think later on in the meeting, you're going to address something else along those lines, or is now the time concerning the selection of a consultant in your conversations?
I think now is the time, right, to get into that.
Oh, good. I had discussed with Mark, and we know that we can think of, I can mention 3 consultants now that he's probably going to mention to you when he
Okay,
answers your email, which he plans on doing in the next day or so.
okay,
But we thought of at least 3 consultants, and I believe that he's going to be recommending Beta Consulting, who's
Okay.
always working with the community on our municipal vulnerability preparedness plan. And we're going in the 2nd year of that, where we identified flood hazard as one of the priorities under our MVP action plan, which we received a grant on to move forward on. Beta is that consultant. The other one is Horsley and Witten, the consultant that I know that I had reached out to already.
okay,
The next one is Kleinfelter Engineering. They all 3 firms have experience in formulating climate action plans for communities that
okay,
are specific to those communities. Those are 3 examples. If he comes up with another one, though, then we'll have 4. But I believe those are 3 he's going to mention to you, Molly, when he responds to your email.
perfect. Well, that's really helpful, James, and that's, I want to try to move that along, because quite frankly, if we are going to present an article to town meeting, we're going to have to draft it, we're going to have to present it to the committee, we're going to have to make sure it's on the agenda, we're going to have, back and forth and detailed information on that, so everybody feels comfortable as to their vote on that, because it's very important. And again, I don't want to I don't want to ask for money from the town unless I feel like it's going to be a really good investment. But I do feel like the scope of what could be done town-wide is complex, it's multifaceted, and certainly, quite frankly, it involves the townspeople as well, the residents as well, taking a look at their climate situation, their greenhouse gas emissions as well, seeing what can be, what changes that they could make as well. And doing the community outreach in a professional way, which I'm sure would be a little bit more comprehensive and perhaps more impactful than what we could do by ourselves with our own limited time. So yeah, that I think that covers the issue for me. Again, it was great to have the meeting, and everybody was very nice of the town officials. I think that they're certainly supportive of these issues. Pam McCarthy was there as well, and she seems to be directly in touch with MAPC about our pending grant application. So I'm going to try to stay in touch with Pam as well on those issues. Any questions about that meeting and about the grants update, which includes potentially putting in an article to town meeting to ask for money? All right, if we're all set on that, I think next up on our agenda is the review of the minutes, which let me pull these out here, which Michael did for us. And we have draft minutes from October 30th. By the way, I do think we're pretty up to date with our minutes, which is fantastic. I have sent the September minutes to be posted on our website. So and I think we did kind of miss a meeting in October. So now we have the October 30th minutes. And I'll just go around clockwise to see if anybody has any suggestions or edits for the minutes, if you have them before you. And I'll start with you, Janet. Did you have a chance to, any thoughts about the minutes? Janet, you're on mute. All right, I'll go to you,
No,
James.
you gotta push that. You gotta push
sorry.
that before I spoke. Sorry about that. I'm looking at the minutes. Forgive me. It looks like my name is in one of the things and not in the other, but I'm not sure if did I get there late? I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, the October 30, I think
I
we
might have
missed
showed up
it.
late. I'm not sure, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
All right, so if you weren't there, usually you shouldn't be, yeah, you don't need to take a look at the minutes. All right, so James, I think there's a typo of your name on page 1, but any other edits?
Oh, I didn't pick up on that one, but thanks for pointing that out, Molly. I didn't see anything else that I had an issue with.
Okay, Rachel, any thoughts about the minutes from October 30th?
They look great to me.
All right, I just had, actually, I had a couple of typos and then a comment later on. So obviously the motion to open, but made by Mr. Conlon, that should get fixed. That's page 1. Under the town hazard mitigation plan, the second paragraph, you have Ms. Conlon, should be Mr. Conlon, if you see that there, Michael. And then if you turn to page 3 under school engagement, it said the second sentence in our school engagement says the school committee has approved signage and the superintendent is excited about our project. I wasn't really clear what that meant. What signage?
I don't remember.
So Rachel, I think this section of school engagement is really 2 sentences. I'll just read it to you. So Ms. Lazarus spoke with Joyce Susani in regard to EV chargers on school properties, may represent a financial loss, the school committee has approved signage and the superintendent is excited about our project. You're on mute.
Sorry, no, that's actually, I must have skimmed that too fast. So the school committee had not approved it, but I was going to talk to the superintendent about ways that we could implement the anti-idling perspective. And the superintendent, Joyce, had told me that he was excited about it. So, but we haven't met with him yet. So if the signage was not approved by school committee, but I was suggesting that that would be one of the ways that we do it.
Can I talk?
No, sweetie. No, sweetie.
So I think that,
Thank you.
Okay.
so is that clear to you, Michael, or do we need to work through that sentence again?
All right.
Are we all set, or do you want?
Yeah, all good.
You're all set, you got it, okay. And I just want, yeah, that's the only thing that I saw. All right, so does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Rachel,
second it.
a second, all right. All in favor of approving the October 30th, 2023 meeting minutes as amended? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? All right, thank you. So the motion carries. So we will have those approved. And then when I get the final, I will forward that for posting. Terrific. All right. Interim recommendations, proposals. I think I had push that off until next time because we've already, quite frankly, done quite a lot of substance tonight. We have a lot to think about too, from what Kathy said to us. If that, I mean, I would be, and also Laura's not here tonight. Would that make sense to people to push that to our next meeting? Okay, seeing people be in agreement with that. Okay. Item 7 is community survey, and I actually want to ask Rachel, and I didn't ask you ahead of time. Do you have any update from SurveyMonkey as to the numbers?
Not from SurveyMonkey. Let me go check and see the latest. Just a minute. I have to go to this account. Oh, there have been 180 responses now.
Great.
All right.
So, and their SurveyMonkey is not involved at all at this point. It's being done by Google Docs. Yeah.
Okay.
There are a number of people who are saying no, they haven't seen anything, but most of them also still think that things are important. Yeah, and then there are a bunch of people who do not believe in climate change. So, but
Well, they would be sure to answer the survey. So,
sure research, but like it's a very small minority of people.
all right. So I did send it and then sort of sent a reminder to 2 of the teachers at the high school, the teacher who's the advisor to the recycling club, and also the teacher who teaches an AP environmental science. And I've asked them to share the survey, and I just sort of ding them again and said,
Yeah.
she hadn't done it yet, so hopefully she'll do it. And then that, perhaps leads to the question of whether we should just directly ask the superintendent, deputy superintendent, whether it can be submitted to the entire student body and any staff or teachers who are residents as well. So how do people, I can't think of any reason why we shouldn't do that. Again, because we'd like to get more like 300, 400 than just.
I'm sorry, baby, just cried. What were you
I'm
saying?
just saying, is there any reason we shouldn't forward the link? And I would copy you, Rachel, as our survey expert, forward the link to the superintendent and deputy superintendent and maybe even the principals as well, and ask whether they might share it with.
No, I think that'll be fine. I did wanna, the deputy superintendent, reached out to me about scheduling a meeting with the two of us. She has not gotten back after I said what times we were available. So I will follow up with her this week. And I
Okay.
can ask about sending a survey as well. So because the superintendent sends out something every Friday anyway. Yeah, bedtime for the older girls. So
All right. No, that's great. Thank you very much.
so because of that,
What
I'm
grades would-
getting really well there. So
What grades would you be looking at?
what grade?
What grades? Oh, for the survey, I would say high school and above.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to scare any little kids about climate change.
But if the superintendent sends it out like in his weekly email, then we'd get parents from all grades. So
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's actually it.
I could make a separate survey link that would have like the same questions, but might like ask to specify, are you a student or a parent of a student or something? Like I could add another question to it and just have a slightly separate link to it. So we know if it's students or teachers or admin or parents.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's a great idea.
Good idea.
That would give us more data. More data is better than less data. I think that's excellent. Sort of along those lines, and I guess maybe Kevin can pass along. Is it Luke or Lucas who did that nice little logo? I think you're on mute. But I don't know if people saw that. I think Rachel had forwarded it to us. I think I forwarded it to everybody else, but it's hard to keep track. Somebody took Climate Action, CAP, Climate Action Committee, and did a really cool logo. Has everybody seen the logo? It had like the earth, it had like the flag. I would love to use that as our logo for multiple purposes, including if I technically or somebody can technically help me do it. Use that to create a flyer with the URL and with the little code thingy. To put it, like the library and the YMCA, maybe other people can put it other places. Did people want to discuss whether we want to adopt that, assuming there's no copyright infringement issue with the very talented creator? Because I just think it's really eye-catching, and I think it helps promote us as a committee to have something like that kind of logo.
Yeah, it's very nice. After the last meeting, I remember I was looking up some things too, but this is fine. This is a nice logo right here.
Okay.
I don't mind helping with the flyer. You'd like.
Oh, thank you.
Flyers are up my alley.
Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. So I'm going to write your name down.
Sure.
Janet Flyers.
But I'm sure you want to say more than just that, but
Yes.
we can
Well,
come
and then once we have that, we'll have future flyers when we have, a public forum or additional focus groups, whatever it is that we have, to have that sort of branded.
Mhm.
It's always good to have a brand. Any other feelings about this? Anybody want to make a motion to, again, with the permission of Lucas from SMAC, who did a beautiful job with that, and anybody want to make a motion to adopt that as our logo?
Move to adopt the logo contingent upon Lucas is okay.
His name is Luke, not Lucas.
Luke, thank
So
you. Luke.
I sent him an email on the 9th, and he has not responded yet. So.
Okay. And honestly, if you don't, however he feels about it, no pressure. It's just that it really did seem like it was very colorful and very appropriate for our work. But we'll make sure with every public forum, we give him credit for being a great graphic artist there. Right, anybody want to second the motion?
I
Second.
All right, all in favor of adopting the for our committee logo, the graphic that was
Aye.
created by Luke?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, Luke. And he can put that on his resume. Think about that. It's one of his own community contribution. So I think the next issue is the school engagement. We touched upon that. And again, hopefully Rachel and I are going to have a meeting with the superintendent / deputy superintendent, which it will focus on the anti-idling proposal, which actually I believe I can say has formally been adopted by Sustainability Committee. They would like to move forward with that as an action item that they will take up. But I think when we have those conversations, we're going to have the broader conversation. And I will say, for those of you who have had a chance, and I would recommend, it doesn't take long, taking a look at that climate leader community certification. You will see that the schools are all over that, like every single step. Like you can't divide the town in two and just the town over here. The schools are really central, clearly, to having a meaningful, greenhouse gas emissions and climate action plan. So we definitely want to start to make inroads there. And I think the next step, quite frankly, is some kind of, few minutes of presentation in front of the school committee and make sure that they're on board and start to have a dialogue back and forth. And certainly I would hope that, I think we have three people on the committee who currently have children in the schools. I think that, obviously we'll look to them to take the lead, and because they'll be listened to more, quite frankly. All right, so then if we're ready to move on, and I am going fast, anybody can slow me down. I'm looking at number 10, which is community engagement, community groups. Again, I would think at this point, we should be starting to talk about some type of community engagement program for January. Obviously, nothing will ever happen once you're on the eve of the holidays. I quite frankly don't see it. It would be nice in an ideal world if we would have like 3 or 6 public meetings and virtual and in person. In the short run, I don't see that happening. I see us maybe having one combined meeting and hoping to get a fairly decent turnout. I will tell you, sometimes it's very difficult to get turnout for meetings, as everybody here knows who's been at things. So I would want to when we do what we do in January, I would want to, cross off as many boxes as we can as far as reaching out to people, and certainly community groups. So people come up with, churches, other community groups, whatever it may be, just to be on our list, so that by either end of December or early January, like we have a list, whether it's, 10 community groups or 5, whatever it may be, hopefully it's more like 10, that we'll definitely make sure we get the message out to them, that we'll invite them to come to, attend sort of a community interaction, community forum type of thing, community engagement type of thing. And you will notice if you see some of the other climate action plans, some of them, I think, worked actually with other community groups. Like there's a list sort of like before the table of contents, we work with these 3 or 6 groups. So I think we want to tap into as many groups as we can, so people could just be sort of brainstorming about that. Any other thoughts about community engagement plans or reaching out to community groups?
I do.
Okay, great.
I think it'd be important that we should improve our relationship with the environmental justice population in our community. I'm thinking that maybe a way to do that might be when the municipal vulnerability program is presented in a few weeks or so, that we have at least we're at that committee meeting where we can interact with folks and talk to people, maybe distribute our survey and become a part of that MVP grant action plan when it's presented to the community, and let folks know that we exist and somehow use it to help us outreach to the environmental justice portion of our population. Because I think that's going to happen at the YMCA, and that's a good place to get through to that part of our
Yes. And so is MVP again? We've obviously seen the draft. You've been talking about the draft hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, yes, where they're going to be giving us an update on the portion of the plan that addresses the flooding, the areas in the town that flood.
Okay,
It's going to be presented in the community in a public forum. It's
Okay.
coming, we haven't announced that date yet, but maybe I would mention to Mark in your next conversation, ask if there's a way that we can step in, distribute surveys or have people at least introduce you. You might want to say a few words, say hello. And other members can be there also, just so that we can interact with members of the community that attend that.
that is a wonderful suggestion. I 100% agree. And that's a brilliant idea. And I will try to send that email and copy you, James, to make sure that you know that I did that. And I certainly, to the extent feasible, would make myself 100% available for that. Actually, I don't know if Rachel's going to it. There's another community forum that is on, it's this Wednesday night.
Yeah, I'm in the focus group.
Yes, there's a focus group forum from the Neponset Valley River Association. Yes, so Watershed, yes, so I'll be going to that. It looks like a fairly small focus group, like 12 people or so, but I will be going to that in person. But that sounds very promising. Sounds exactly like how we want to be outreaching to that community. And then I would also say, hopefully, when we get involved more with the school engagement and maybe even going to some PTO meetings, that we would sort of get that message out there too, to a very diverse community, so that they're aware of us, that they're hopefully interacting with us. And along those lines, just as for example, I was hoping to go to the alleged OMS holiday fair, which I think they have every year. I can't find anything on it online. I've asked Aisha to see if she can find out if they're actually having one. If they do, I would show up, or multiple of us can show up with the surveys and to talk to people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so that's another good way to hopefully reach out to community engagement. And you're right about the environmental justice communities. We need to keep our eye on the ball as far as that, which is, in addition, it is, relevant to grant funding, quite frankly, that we're doing that. So anything else? Well, we do have public comment. It does not appear, and I've been very careful looking to see if anybody else was trying to get in. Does not appear that we have any members of the public today. So there is no public comments. That leaves us with of any other business that cropped up that could not be anticipated. I don't have anything on my list. I think we made a lot of progress tonight, and really, yeah, I think Kathy gave us a lot to think about and a lot to absorb. And then clearly, although her time is limited, we are going to have to, keep circling back to her to make sure we're on the same page, that we're doing things the most efficiently and effectively with our time. But I sort of think like she's really. She's really, between her and Paul, have really, mastered, I would say, the issue of addressing and being knowledgeable about the issues with respect to town buildings, et cetera. And she has her eye, of course, involved in school buildings as well. But I think the climate action plan ideally is broader, and it is a whole kind of, movement and consciousness raising for all the members of the community. And although decarbonization seems to be like one of the very biggest things that you want to put your money in first, if you do climate action plans, there's also like 14 other things you can do. So whether it's, open space protection, taking care of your tree canopy, there's a whole lot of details in addition to that it would be great to explore and have in our climate action plan.
So I'm sorry. I got something. I'm trying to figure out where I heard about it, but there's something about a Zoom, it's like a Zoom thing about the Sustainable Sharon Coalition. I don't know. I got something like, I thought I might listen to their Zoom. I guess it's coming up this month. So I just thought I would listen to it and see what they talk about.
That's a great idea. I actually am on their email list, and I years ago, back before COVID, I went to one of their meetings and learned like a huge amount from one meeting that I was definitely not on the cutting edge. I was many steps away from it and learned so much from that. So they are a great organization. It would be great if in addition to us, we had like a nonprofit like they have, because they're not like they're like a nonprofit. They're not like a town appointing committee. It would be great if we had like a really active nonprofit in town of, 20
A
people.
couple of the other towns I've talked to have also a nonprofit.
Right. So, and Canton does
Yeah.
as well. There's somebody extremely dedicated in Canton who runs that nonprofit. So
Right.
that's a long-term thing, quite frankly, would be, as we engage in the community engagement and talk with people and hopefully meet people, it would be great if that arises out of this, because, we need to be in for the long haul, which is not just us writing our plan, it's carrying forward the plan and carrying forward the activity. But I think Sharon is really inspirational. I actually went to their Earth Day event last April or May, and they had lots and lots of vendors there, but and I don't mean selling like garbage, but I mean like meaningful vendors that related to sustainability issues and energy efficiency. They had people showing their electric cars. There must have been at least 100 members of the public. And one of the interesting things they had was sort of like a clothing swap, or just come and take some used clothing, quite frankly. And there was an enormous amount of clothing there. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, somebody's got to be in charge of that project. And it's not going to be me, because it was, hopefully they had many people helping with that project, and they took the leftovers and, they donated them to someplace. But, there were clearly a lot of people that worked this, but they had a really good community turnout. And that would be something ideally that Stoughton would be able to have that kind of thing as well.
It sounds like in August, they had something, they had a Sharon Green Day, and a successful celebration of sustainability. They showed an energy makeover of an old house. I guess it's just kind of nice if you show the people what you're, you have things and it shows them what you're doing. We're just not talking about it, but we're actually
Exactly.
people like to see.
And like having people show up and meet a vendor who says, "Oh yes, here's what I could do for your house," or "Here's what I could do for this," or what I mean. I think that's very, very different than somebody just looking something up on the internet, or people who might say, "I've heard about doing these things. I've heard about solar panels. I don't know what I would do first. I'm very, very busy." It's sort of easier and I know actually multiple towns have something like sustainability coaches, where people are volunteers, and if you're interested in solar panels, they'll talk to you. If you're interested in moving to an electric vehicle, if you're interested in doing blah, blah, blah with your house. I think that's interesting. And again, it could be something as part of a climate action plan.
It's really nice, to see what they're about and get some
Exactly.
ideas from them, because I know we want to do something for the whole town, but we also want to get the people really excited and
Yes.
get them involved.
And like doing this stuff is hard. I've been in our house, we're doing one of the Mass Save programs to upgrade to heat pumps. It's taken us a year so far to get through it, and the mailers make it look so easy, but it's a lot of like little fiddly things. So
Yeah, I think it's the weatherizing before you do it, right? So with us, it was we had to re-insulate our attic, and you know what? Quite frankly, I'm sure Mass Save came to my house 10 years ago and said the same thing, and I didn't do it. But gave us a chance to clean out the attic. You should see it's a beautiful attic now. But it is a multi-step process. But at the end of the day, it's totally worth it to feel like you've made a huge step in the right direction. So hopefully, anyways, but 100%. Anybody find out watch what Sharon's doing. Go to their events, go watch their meetings. I've watched their meetings online as well. I think that's terrific if you have time to do that. So that's great, Janet. So Janet, I'll keep you in mind for the flyers too. And hopefully we'll make some progress there.
Sure.
And I think our next meeting is the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So,
I'm not going to be able to make it.
okay. So Rachel won't be here on whatever
it's
it is.
that immediate Monday. Okay.
Okay. We will send out the invite and see how many people can attend. But thank you everybody tonight. And again, I think we all are ending this meeting much more educated than we started, because we learned so much from Kathy.
Yes, definitely.
Anything else before we wrap up? No.
No adjourn?
There you go.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor of
Thank you.
adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? No. All right. Thank you. And good luck with those minutes, Michael.
Good night, everybody.
I tried to take some notes too, and we'll help you out. Thanks,
Thank you, I
everybody.
appreciate it.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nice
And happy
meeting
Thanksgiving, I guess everyone wants to see you.
you. Happy Thanksgiving, right? Thank you.
Everybody.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.